Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Wall Crawler Cast. Today I'm joined by Gavin again. He had a previous episode with me where we talked about the first Spider Man movie.
Hmm.
We did say we were going to talk about the rest of the trilogy, and we will at some point. But just to start out, this has been the first one I've done in a long time. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this instead of just do another movie is yesterday on my Instagram page, I posted about why I didn't like the idea of the Spider Verse, and I had, my followers answer back and see what they thought of it too, and it just got me thinking, and I thought it was cool to analyze it, and I thought it would be more, it would be fun to explain what I thought of it more and to delve into it more on here since I can talk just endlessly about it. So, and Gavin here also has some thoughts that he wants to talk about. So,
There's a lot to talk about.
that's the main thing we'll be talking about today. We might talk about some other things, but and ramble or whatever. But
Yeah.
the main thing is we're just going to talk about what we think about the idea of the Spider Verse and just everything that comes with that. So, what are your general thoughts of it, Gavin?
Well, first of all, I just wanted to talk about how, the idea of the movie, because the topic of the movie is on everyone's mind about how anyone can be Spider-Man, which I take issue with so much because people kind of miss the other half of the quote because anyone can be Spider-Man, but not without, the burden and the responsibility and the guilt factor. So, it's not that anyone can be Spider-Man. Anyone has the ability to be Spider-Man. Um, like Spider-Man 2 puts it, they say anyone or there's a hero in all of us. So everyone has the potential to be Spider-Man, but not everyone can be Spider-Man if they're not prepared to, take on the responsibility and all the weight that comes with it.
It's just like with any other huge responsibility. Like if, say, you're like an engineer, like an average Joe just can't go and build a spaceship. Like he has
Yeah.
to be properly prepared and qualified to do so. I mean,
Hmm.
there's a certain psyche and mentality that Peter Parker has that inherently makes him a great Spider-Man, and I just don't think that like the average person or I don't know. It's just something about Peter Parker that makes him
Yeah.
specifically more qualified, I guess is the word, to be Spider-Man. So,
Well, that's how the '90s series puts it. Is in that version of the Spider Verse, it's like completely different from the movie.
oh, for those who don't know, he's talking about there's like a multiple episode arc where there's different versions of Peter Parker, and there's a big multiverse type of ending apocalyptic thing that Carnage is doing, and that was the first ever like concept. That was the first time that the Spider Verse concept ever showed up. Was in that
Yeah.
series where they all not that there were different versions of Spider Man. That has been a thing since I think Spider Ham was probably the first one.
Yeah.
I think he was like in the 80s or 70s, but then Miguel O'Hara, Spider Man 2099, was in like 92 was his first issue, and then
Mhm.
the animated series was like the end of that was like 98.
94,
So the
98.
actual crossing over of them was first introduced in the actual show.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what he's referring to.
Yeah. But yeah, what I was gonna say is that show or that arc in the show basically portrays the complete opposite of the movie. And I don't think a lot of people talk about that is the show basically says Peter Parker is the only one capable of, taking on Spider Carnage. He's the only one with the willpower to get through to him. Because every version of Spider-Man there is basically considering taking him on with raw power and strength. So they're trying to go at it the wrong way, and Peter's the only one who's basically able to realize the only way to actually defeat Spider Carnage is through reaching out to his humanity and morality. So they're basically saying like you can have all the power, but the responsibility is something only someone like Peter Parker is able to handle and um, you know use his powers responsibly. So the show basically says Peter Parker is the only one, capable of taking that on. Complete opposite of the movie, which says anyone can be Peter Parker or Spider-Man, take on that.
I think it's kind of a tricky thing because it's not inherently that I hate the idea of someone else other than Peter Parker being Spider-Man. It's the fact that every time it's been done where it okay, so the only one that isn't I like other versions of Peter Parker, that works fine for me because Peter Parker is Peter Parker like no matter where you go. So whenever it's like, Spider-Man Noir or like an older version of Peter Parker or anything like that, it doesn't bother me because it's just like Peter in a different setting. So there's only one other version of Spider-Man that I really like as like a serious character. Like I love Spider-Ham, like he's hilarious, but that's just a parody, and that's why that's okay. But Spider-Man 2099 is the only one that I actually like in like a serious way.
Yeah, me too.
That's like an alternate reality one. I mean, there's I love Ben Reilly. I think that's one of the better clones.
And Kane's
Basically
fine.
Peter Parker. So
yeah,
I love Miguel O'Hara because he's his own person and he has his own very unique voice. And he was inspired by Peter Parker, so he's not a direct copy of him. He's his own person. In Edge of Time, Spider-Man Edge of Time, you can tell that Miguel O'Hara and Peter Parker are very much not the same person. They're very, very different.
Their dynamic in that game is amazing.
Yes. Yeah.
Super well.
Miguel O'Hara is so much more serious than Peter is.
Yeah.
It's great to see their, back and forth. And there's a quote, I'll quote Ratatouille. There's, at the end of the movie, the critic says, not everyone can become a great artist, but a great artist can come from anywhere. Now, I think that anyone could have the potential to be a great Spider-Man. I'm not saying that that's not a valid thing. I think that's possible. But every time other than Peter Parker, alternate versions of Peter Parker, and Miguel O'Hara, for me, pretty much every other version of Spider-Man falls flat because they're not distinct voices. Miguel O'Hara is his own person. He's very distinct. Peter David, I was listening to an interview of him today, actually, and he was talking about, Peter and Miguel are very different, and he was hired for Edge of Time to write it because he knows how to write both of them, and they're both very different. And not many people know the difference. I've noticed in recent stories that 2099 has started to resemble Peter more in the way he acts, and it's just...
Yeah, the way they've been handling 2099 recently has just been super weird in Spencer's run. Didn't they reboot 2099 recently or something?
Yeah, last November. I haven't read it, but yes, they did reboot it.
Yeah.
So, it's the way that all of these different versions of Spider-Man have been portrayed is they're like Peter Parker, but just slightly different. Even like Spider-Gwen, she's a bit different in her personality, like on the surface level, and same for Miles Morales. They're all in high school, they're all, have dead parents, and that's what drives them. They're all, have high school problems and everything that comes with that. It's just they're all like very like slightly tweaked versions of what makes Peter Parker appealing. And Miguel O'Hara is so different. He became Spider-Man when he was like 25 or like mid-20s or something, like, and he was an engineer.
Completely different.
He's completely different. He's his complete own person. But every time I've seen a different version of Spider-Man that's not Spider-Man, or not Peter Parker, it's like they're afraid to try new things, and they think that, this spider person, so they have to be, whenever you read a Spider-Man story, you want the relatability, which is, understandable.
Yeah.
It just feels like fan fiction. You're like, let's just make a different, you know, I mean, it's just like let's make Spider-Man with the exact same, except let's make him a girl. Like
Yeah,
that,
it's
I
like
really
feels
get
like
the point of
something you
that.
find
You know?
on like a fan fiction website or something like that.
Yeah, it honestly just feels very fan fiction-y to me, and it's
But
not.
people,
Yeah,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. You go ahead.
Yeah. All right. People take Stan Lee's quote out of context also about how he said, didn't you talk about one time how Peter Parker is like can be anyone. He's like a blank face for anyone to kind of reflect themselves onto. People take that out of context, and they don't realize Stan Lee's talking about the reader. And like the reader can relate directly to Spider-Man. The reader can, put his own face on Spider-Man, relate to Spider-Man's problems. But that doesn't apply to the actual fictional universe. Like Spider-Man can't just be anything you want him to be, but he can he's the everyman and he has the everyman problems, but that doesn't mean he can be whatever you want him to be.
Yes,
Um,
exactly. Like he's a
um,
character and he's Peter Parker. He's his own person.
yeah.
Like you can't just reflect yourself onto him and that's instantly how it is. You know, Peter Parker is he's very relatable because of the things he goes through, but the
Hmm.
actual personality of him should not waver just to be more relatable. So
Yeah.
he goes through, he has girl problems, he has money problems, he has rent due. That's all relatable to us because it's the actual, things he's doing, not the actual kind of person he is.
Mhm.
The kind of person he is what is what makes him a hero and what makes him Spider-Man. He inspires us to,
Yeah.
pushing on.
The fact that he is the normal kid and he comes from a normal, average, like environment, like he's poor, he's got money troubles, he's from a random school, random high school, and the reason why he's so inspirational to people is because he starts out like us, and we can see ourselves in him, and we see him do all these moral things, and we see him doing all this good, so we're inspired by that because we see ourselves in him and we kind of aspire to be like him. We try to be the moral person that he is because he can relate directly to us and we can relate our situations.
Yes, exactly.
So,
Yes, that's exactly why he's so appealing. It's just 'cause the
mhm.
kind of person he is, and it inspires us that hey, if a guy that has money problems like us, we can all,
Yeah,
eventually get there.
he's got girl problems. He's always having trouble with that, even though, he dated Gwen Stacy and Mary Jane and Betty. That's not really that relatable, but
Hmm.
um,
I think that once it got to Miles Morales, well, it was even before Miles Morales. I felt like just there were way too many.
Miles, I'd say, is where it started getting out of control.
Yeah, I mean,
That's where you got Spider Gwen.
yeah,
All that.
like even before Ultimate Spider-Man, there were so many Spider people. Like I was doing some research yesterday to figure out like how many things there were. There were four separate Spider women before the year 2000.
Wow.
Spider women, not even Spider Man. And then there was another Spider Woman that came out in 2005, and that's just in the main 616 universe.
At least Jessica Drew is like completely different Spider Man.
Yeah, she's her
I mean,
own person, so I think that's fine.
yeah.
You know.
When I was little, I was like so confused by her because I'm like, she has none of the same powers as Spider Man. She has basically no relation to him.
Yeah,
But
and then she just gets roped into
uh,
it just because she has a similar name.
yeah. Um, I was gonna say, I don't like when people say there's no definitive Spider Man, just because there have been a lot of different takes on him and stuff. Like, I don't think people realize he was a completely consistent character from the '60s until late 2000s. Like, people try to say, oh, these writers have, he's never been a consistent character or whatever, and people have all these different takes on him. But if you look at him from the '60s to the 2000s, he's, been the same developing, growing character.
I mean that it all started to fall apart at Brand New Day, but up until that point, I would say that's the as definitive as Spider-Man could be, you know.
Hmm.
But like once Brand New Day happened, it just kind of shook everything up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is kind of hard to for people to remember what Peter Parker is what he used to be like, because Marvel's changed it so much
Yeah.
recently.
I mean, and then that gets, you know, what Dan Slott did was he took the character and he made him this complete, I guess, you know, irresponsible man child. He's living at home. He has no job. He's got no money income. And then the adaptations take that. You know, we see it in the MCU and we see the cartoon. They all feel inspired by that in a certain way as they make him feel a little incompetent. So then the adaptations is what everyone sees, and then that amplifies how the public sees the character from that point on. So
Yeah, for sure. Um, Oversaturation is really another thing that really bugs me about the Spider-Verse thing, is that we just have so many that there's a at my local comic shop I saw this. I actually still have it. I probably should have pulled it out, but there's this guide to the Spider-Verse, and they have a list of like every spider person that shows up in Spider. It was the Spider-Geddon
oh yeah, that
book,
comic exists.
and it had every character listed that showed up in Spider-Geddon, and it was so long. And
I can't.
like I can't tell you more than 20 of them like off the top of my head.
I know.
That's how much of an impression all of them left on me. Like
Yeah,
just so many that
they're there to be
don't
there.
mean anything anymore. Like
I know.
once it got to Miles is okay, but like I like Miles depending on the story. Like
But the movie did him a really good.
yeah,
They differentiated him
the
from
movie's
Peter and
great.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I like the movie plot wise, but the actual like, you know, concept of the Spider-Verse in general,
Mhm.
I don't like, but the actual like, you know, pathos and ethos that happens in that movie is actually phenomenal. I love it's a great movie, it's a great story. But like
Regarding, I have stuff to say
when it
about the
comes to
movie.
this type of story, usually Spider-Verse falls completely flat. I mean, even in the first Spider-Verse event that Dan Slott did,
Mhm.
like the inheritors and the totems and they're
I
just,
don't even know what the inheritors had to do with anything. Why were they there? It's just so dumb.
I don't know.
Like
I just
Valor Spider-Man.
it was overly convoluted in something that was really convoluted to begin with.
Yeah.
Then don't even get me started on Spider-Geddon. That was even worse somehow. They basically undid the first one.
I know.
They're like, oh wait, the Spider-Verse movie is coming out. We should probably have a comic that also crosses over Spider-Man, even though we did this
I
like
barely even remember the Spider-Geddon. I just remember diving into random issues and being like so confused by it. I'm like, what is going on right now?
and they killed my favorite version of Peter that's not 616, which is Spider-Man Noir.
Oh yeah,
So
I forgot
was-
about that.
yeah.
They bring him back.
They brought him back. Yeah, I actually have issue 1. Yeah, it's in the other room. I
Yeah.
haven't read it yet, but yeah, he already has his own miniseries again.
Comics love to just immediately bring people back after killing them off. I think
That's
they're bringing
comics,
back
right?
Craven. It might be.
I
Already,
hope not.
because he actually I didn't have any problems with Hunted. Did you read that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of behind on Amazing Spider-Man right now, but
Me too. The last issue I read was like 33. Whenever Norman Osborn became Carnage, is when I stopped.
oh, he became Carnage again.
Yeah, he thought he was Cletus Cassidy. It's like the weirdest thing I've ever read.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think the last issue I read was maybe 29 or 30. I have.
27 was really good.
I just haven't read them
Yeah.
because I think I've read the first 2 issues of Absolute Carnage, but I just can't sit myself down and read the rest. So I
Yeah.
kind of
so
kind of
weird.
stopped reading Amazing Spider-Man because
Mhm.
the next issue was a tie-in to Absolute Carnage, and I
Yeah.
lost. So I'm like, I'll read Absolute Carnage and then I'll read it, but I haven't
Hmm.
read Absolute Carnage yet, so I
Yeah.
probably just plow through it and just read Absolute Carnage later. But
I'm pretty interested in okay, regarding Spencer's run, he hasn't done anything wrong, but he hasn't really done much.
I
Um
really actually have enjoyed his run fairly well.
yeah.
I mean, of course, there's
Mm,
not every issue is a home run, but
yeah.
for the most part, all of his arcs, the build up to Hunted was great.
Yeah.
And then there's just like, I love that he basically undid a lot of what Dan Slott did.
Hmm.
First 5 issues were just complete damage control.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
loved
the
it.
first 5 issues were just picking up everything he's ever done.
Yeah,
That was funny.
man, Dan Slott's
But
run was one of the
yeah.
most frustrating.
Didn't he say he like stayed on the title out of spite?
Did he?
I heard somewhere that like he was very aware of the complaints and he was very aware that people hate, but he stayed on just to spite people. That's what I heard. Which okay.
Yeah, I've seen his Twitter before. Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. Thing with Dan, and he said like someone told I was talking to a follower today, and they were basically like, Slott's goal was to keep sending him back to the status quo, no matter what he did to Peter. So he'd keep sending him back to the Daily Bugle and back to school, and just kept sending him back and never really moving him forward. That was one of my biggest problems.
Yeah, the Parker Industries thing didn't last
Yeah.
near as long as I thought it should have, even though I wasn't that big of a fan of the concept. But it
Hmm.
only lasted for a couple of years, and then it was gone all of a sudden.
Yeah.
I feel like that, even though he's basically just Tony Stark at that point, I feel like
Hmm.
it could have been much better
I
executed.
mean, with the right writers, any idea in concept can be done right. Like I read today this issue Amazing Spider-Man Family, and it was basically Peter dealing with the fact that Harry's back after Brand New Day. And like obviously reading Brand New Day it's complete garbage because Dan Slott. But then you get someone like J.M. DeMatteis writing in that era and it feels just like classic Spider-Man. So it really just all depends on the writer.
Hmm.
Like even JMS, he had like the concepts of his stories were terrible, but it's not really his fault because the editorial was like do this spider totem stuff and like bring in Moreland. It was just a bunch of weird like abstract stuff.
Yeah, he did. It's weird. Like Dan Slott had the most killer ideas, but his execution
Yeah,
was really,
he
really.
did have good ideas.
But like uh, JMS had pretty mediocre concepts, but his actual execution of them was
He's a great writer.
compared. Like he set the bar way up here. Like no one's like even close in that. Well,
Hmm.
Jenkins is
I
close,
mean, that's
like in that era.
what
But
JMS did was like peak adult Spider-Man.
yes, oh man, JMS is probably my favorite run. The John Romita Jr. and Straczynski run is probably my favorite.
Yeah, that whole run, like it's just a really comforting run to read because you're reading Spider-Man basically like at the peak of who he is. You know, like
Yeah,
he's that's kind of the peak of his life by that point. He's a
him
teacher,
being a teacher is
married to MJ.
amazing. Yeah.
Dude, when he was a teacher was like really great storytelling. Because in Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man with Peter David, he dove into Peter as a teacher and everything, and it was just great storytelling.
I need to read that. I haven't read that Friendly Neighborhood run.
You do have to check that out. Because he even dealt with the identity reveal in Civil War, the repercussions like it had on Peter's job and everything, and the kids' reaction to it. Like there was one issue where Mysterio attacked the school, and then Peter had to protect the children because everyone knows who Peter is now by that point.
Hmm.
So,
Wow.
but like the idea of Peter having his identity out in public can work. Like Peter David showed that it can be some really interesting stories. But the way that it happened, Peter revealing his identity on his own merit was kind of dumb.
I can't remember who pitched this, but back in like I want to say the 80s, um, either the 80s or 90s, someone did come up with the concept of, hey, what if Peter's identity was revealed to the world? And
Yeah.
Marvel's like, heck no, you can't do that. And he had like his plan was it would basically be a year of Peter dealing with this.
Hmm.
Then I don't remember how he would have resolved it. I think Doctor Strange maybe, or it was some mystical thing. I think,
Yeah.
but basically Peter was, gonna have to have Mary Jane and Aunt May like in a like the
In danger all the time.
basically like to protect them, and it was like it. He said that the purpose of the story was to show everyone that revealing Peter Parker's identity is not a good idea and it should never happen.
Hmm.
So
And then it happened.
it's going to be 12 issues of just absolute torture for Peter Parker, and then it would eventually be reset to the status quo,
Yeah.
of course. But yeah, the whole purpose was just so that, like, no, don't do this, please.
Hmm.
Then Marvel,
They did it.
they're like, oh, this is a good idea.
Like, it could be cool if like a villain reveals his identity to the world and there's nothing he can do about that. And then, they keep it going for a while, like how, they explored it in a few different runs after he did it. But obviously, it would need to be reset at some point because revealing his identity to the world just takes away, so much of his internal conflicts and just kind of like it can make for interesting stories for a certain amount of time before it would become slow.
The Spectacular Spider-Man episode Identity Crisis did a great job with
Yeah.
the concept of uh, Peter's identity being revealed, I think.
Yeah.
That
They
was
did a
one of
good
the
job
few
with that.
instances where it was actually well done, I think.
I wonder how Spider-Man 3 is going to do that.
Oh, I always forget that that was the cliffhanger because like these are so far out of my mind all the time.
You know,
Man, I don't know how that third one's gonna end up. That's
I just feel like there's no way they can do this without so many plot holes. Because it's like he has so many different ways to get out of it. You know,
yeah,
like you have the scrolls in the MCU. You have Mysterio having literally no video proof. Um, there's just so many ways he can escape it. It feels like no matter what they do, there are just gonna be tons of plot holes.
yeah. Yeah.
But I mean,
There's plenty of ways they could do it. There's the scrolls. There's Doctor Strange.
mhm.
I'm sure Thor could do something. But yeah, Thor's lazy, so never mind.
I hope for this movie, like the only thing that could even make me tolerate it, or maybe one of the only things, is you get Daredevil. Like you get Netflix Daredevil, you get the writers from Netflix Daredevil, and make sure they don't mess him up. They make him one of the main characters in the story. You get Jameson, you get Scorpion. I mean, you got to have Scorpion in this story the way they have it set up, because they just introduced Jameson. They have
Oh
Scorpion.
yeah, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, like you've got Scorpion set up since Spider-Man 1. He's already got Homecoming.
He's got
He's
that
already
spider.
already done
He's
it.
got that scorpion tattoo on.
Yeah,
it.
he has like a tattoo right here.
So on.
I heard. Okay, I need to tell you about the Morbius rumors.
Morbius rumors.
The supposed plot leaks.
Oh,
Yeah.
they.
So basically, the biggest thing I remember from that is that Morbius is gonna escape with Adrian, like Vulture, and they're just gonna break out the entire Sinister Six from prison.
Wait. Oh yeah, isn't Adrian Toomes in the trailer?
Yeah.
Oh man, I completely forgot about that Morbius trailer. I pretty much forgot everything about it like 2 days after I watched it.
You remember the Raimi suit that they used
Yes.
on the wall?
Yes, I remember that. So yes,
But-
Adrian Toomes is actually there. Okay.
So I heard they're gonna like break out Carnage and like all
Oh,
these villains.
goodness.
They're gonna break out Scorpion. Like if that happens, Spider-Man 3 is just gonna be a giant mess.
I'm really interested to see how the two movie universes tie in together because it's kind of confusing right now.
Yeah, I have no clue. Like Venom already contradicts half the MCU. They don't even know that aliens exist. It's like
Yeah.
it's just a really weird thing. But
Hmm.
but yeah, what I was saying, I guess in Morbius, everyone's gonna break out of prison. Someone's gonna do that, and then Spider-Man 3 will be Peter fending off every villain from that prison, going
Would it
after
be
them.
a Sinister Six?
Yeah, some form of it. So I guess we'd
Just
have like
Scorpion,
Scorpion.
Vulture, Carnage, Venom. Oh, that'd be terrible if both of them.
Oh, that's already giving me like bad vibes.
If Venom and Carnage team up, that's wrong.
Yeah, that's already wrong.
Yeah, that
There's a really weird misconception about Venom and Carnage teaming up for some reason.
that's
Like people for some reason think that they're allies,
no.
and it's because of
Okay, so
I think it's
what
because of that
what
show
villains could
Spider-Man.
make up the Sinister Six?
What was that?
It would be Scorpion. It'd be Vulture. It would be probably Carnage.
Hmm.
Uh, who else? Who else is in there?
The Tinkerer, right?
Mysterio died though.
Mysterio will probably come back.
Would he? Would it be like like a second Mysterio like they've done before?
Oh, they could do that
Jack
unless
O'Lantern
he faked
took
his
over.
death or
Venom?
something like that.
Hmm.
Unless they like faked his death or something.
Yeah, he could have faked his death.
So it would be like Vulture, Mysterio, Carnage, Shocker.
Oh yeah, Shocker. Forgot about Shocker.
Got on here. Tinker,
Tinker
and I
was.
guess who else would it be? I guess freaking Morbius.
Oh, Morbius. Oh.
This is gonna be the weirdest Sinister Six lineup ever. You got Carnage and Morbius on the Sinister Six. That is already wrong.
I wonder if Venom would like team up with Spider-Man to fight the Sinister Six. Just
Dude, I
Carnage.
think the worst case scenario for this movie is that lineup of the Sinister Six, She-Hulk is Spider-Man's lawyer, uh, and then you got Venom teaming up with Spider-Man for some reason.
It
And
would
I
be
bet
awesome
that's
if
what they're
Murdoch
gonna do.
was his lawyer. I would really dig that.
I would actually like that. Like if they brought back, if they brought the writers from the show and they brought in Charlie Cox, and they
As
just
long as
make
he's
sure
written
that they
fine, I
don't,
mean that's really all that matters.
huh?
As long as he's written fine, that's all that matters.
Yeah. I mean, it could be even a new version of Daredevil as long as it's not like a terrible version or something
Yeah.
like Smallville, Crisis.
Oh gosh, no.
Ever since I gave up being blind, like if the Smallville writers wrote Spider-Man 3. But that
What do you
movie
think
is,
of all these movies being pushed back?
dude? I think it's just gonna be whatever movie opens once the quarantine's over is gonna have a ton of money.
Yeah.
Everyone will walk to the theater, and that'll be the first movie they see.
Yeah. And there's
I
nothing
bet
the
Sony's
studios can do
banking
to
on
predict it, so it's just kind of gonna happen.
Yeah. Like imagine Venom's the first movie to release after the virus, and it makes like 3 billion.
We don't even care what the movie is. We just want to go.
Dude,
There's
Venom
gonna be
2.
carnage.
I have no clue what to expect from Venom 2.
I don't know. I haven't even finished Venom, so I can't even say. I
That movie is like
I
the
watched
funniest
half of
movie
it,
I've
then I
ever
was
seen.
like, "This it's getting kind of late. I should probably go to sleep."
Like the Riot was one of the worst villains ever.
Really?
It's terrible. Yeah, he's like
Wasn't he
the
the
most
CEO? Is
I've
that?
ever-
I think the movie's spoiled for me at this point, but is
Yeah.
the CEO Riot?
Yeah, he's like he's trying to like his plan is to go to planet Symbiote and bring back the symbiotes from that planet to take over Earth.
They're in the first movie and they're already trying to oversaturate with symbiotes.
Yeah, it's like the comics.
Please,
Everyone has a
no.
symbiote in the comics.
Spider-Verse and symbiotes. Those are the two things like I hate that are oversaturated.
And they both have the same kind of attributes. Like, we're fine with Ben Riley in 2099, just a few. We're fine with Venom and Carnage, but it just completely goes out of control after that.
Venom and Carnage are the only ones that count to me, and then I guess kind of Anti-Venom, but that's about it. Like everything else,
Maybe Agent Venom too.
yeah,
with
I mean,
Flash.
even that. But the only reason is because it's Eddie Brock is the reason why I think it is kind
Yeah,
of
anti Venom.
yeah. And wasn't Flash Anti-Venom at one point? In
I think he became like anti-Agent Venom, Agent
Oh.
Anti-Venom.
oh okay. I like Agent Venom. I
Anti-Venom,
think
pretty cool.
I like Agent Venom pretty well.
Yeah.
But
I like Flash. Just
like Toxin and Scream
yeah.
and
I
Ride.
remember when I was little. Remember that Universal Spider-Man ride?
I never got to ride it, but yes, I might.
Yeah, I just watched
I think they'll
videos.
shut
about
that
it.
down because of the Disneyland stuff.
Oh, I hope not. The Disneyland
That'd be
ride
terrible.
is. Did you read the plot for the Disneyland ride?
Yeah, isn't it like Tony Stark driven?
Yeah, I'm not gonna complain about a Disneyland ride, but I'm gonna complain about a Disneyland ride. It's like I don't think people realize like this is how Spider-Man is now. Like he is. This is how the media is gonna start portraying him now because of the movies.
Yeah, everything.
Like people can say it's just a
Because
ride and everything.
movies is what's the most widespread. So
Yeah, like people can say it's just a ride. There's nothing to complain about. And I mean, I kind of agree. It's just a Disneyland ride, but it is an example of like how Spider-Man is viewed now. Like this is who he is.
he's basically Iron Man's Robin at this point.
That's how I saw it for the longest
See,
time.
that's why I really don't like this version. Is because he's not his own person, but for an entirely different reason than what it usually is for a Spider-Verse person.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's funny is that I don't really like symbiotes, and I don't really like Spider-Verse when they oversaturate, But what's
Yeah.
funny is that I think it was 2018, they merged the two and had the Venomverse event. Do you remember that?
The whole like
There was a
Just
Ghost Rider
mess.
Venom. There was, I
Yeah.
think it was a Gwenpool Venom, which is just
oh yeah,
tears upon tears of terrible.
the Planet of the Symbiotes. Just
Yeah.
the dumbest thing.
Gwenpool is like the worst Marvel character of all time, but making her
But then you give the
giving her the
symbiote to
symbiote is just like,
Yeah. Overkill. Like you're taking the worst Marvel character of all time and you're making them worse. Like I don't think it can get any worse than Gwen.
There's actually there's a pop, Funko Pop, it's like Spider Gwen, but she's Venom, and I kid you not, the title for it is Gwenom.
Gwenom?
Gwenom.
What do you even? It's the dumbest thing, dude.
Look it up, like it's hilarious. They actually,
Oh, and also
it's Gwen.
another product of the symbiotes being like overdone was the stupid like Red Goblin thing. Norman Osborn becoming like whatever Carnage, Green Goblin or whatever.
Mhm.
You remember that from like Dan Slott's final
Yeah,
story?
800. Yeah, it was like the huge.
And remember Harry's son like got the Carnage symbiote.
Oh, yeah, little baby
Normie.
Carnage.
Yeah, I don't even remember what happened. Didn't the end of the story allude to the fact that he still had it or something?
I haven't read that since it came out, so I don't really remember.
I think there was some kind of tease at the end where like the Carnage symbiote was still in his ear or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But
What's his name? Isn't it Normie or
yeah, Normie Osborn.
Normie? Yeah.
I want to talk about him a little bit real quick too, just the Goblin legacy in general.
Oh, we're going all over the place today.
I know we're just jumping everywhere. But I just wanted to mention that I don't think Harry or Norman should have come back. and it should have the Goblin legacy should have carried on to Normie.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
Because then you've got like the legacy of hatred for Peter Parker.
One of the
Osborn.
worst decisions the Clone Saga ever made was bringing Norman back.
What'd you say? It cut out.
Oh, I said that the clones. One of the Clone Saga's dumbest decision was bringing Norman back. I think
Yeah.
just undoing his death. It's like
His death was one of the best deaths in comic books.
yes, exactly. I loved
It
it.
was so well written.
Yeah. He's like, oh, it was me all along.
Yeah, it's so stupid. And I think from there on is when Norman Osborn started really changing as a character.
Oh,
in
he's
terms of,
completely different from what he used to.
Yeah.
Be. Like, he's completely different.
He's basically they Marvel was focused on kind of making him like Marvel's Lex Luthor.
Yeah, basically.
So he started
More
changing like
cerebral.
Patriot.
They started making him more cerebral with like the Dark Avengers stuff. I mean, it started with the Clone Saga saying he was the mastermind, but
Yeah.
before, I mean, he was nothing but a psychopath. Like he was
Yeah, he was
literally
completely
off the
psycho.
walls bonkers. That was what made him Green Goblin.
Yeah, exactly. And he was like people don't realize that, and this goes for a lot of things, is when you bring back dead characters, you forget about the legacy characters. So Harry was completely overlooked for the longest time. In my opinion, he's the best Green Goblin that there can be. The best Spider-Man villain, period, is Harry Osborn.
Harry's a
Because
good one.
so many layers of complexity.
Yeah. What did you think?
Like in,
I think it was Harry's therapist was the third Goblin.
oh, I forgot all about that. That was like, was that in main continuity or was that like?
Oh, it was main continuity. It was just really like.
Yeah, it was just I barely remember it.
Do you remember the
weird.
new Goblin in the Clone Saga? There's so many goblins too. Like,
Yeah, the goblins are crazy too.
I guess you guys are now picking up that comics are really bad at oversaturation, especially
They
when
don't know
it comes to
what
goblins. And goblins is just one of those things in the Spider-Man universe that, along with symbiotes and alternate Spider People, that
Yeah,
they just beat that dead horse. And there are so many goblins. There was
Hobgoblin.
there's like the three
Which
green
Hobgoblin's fun.
goblins. I love Hobgoblin. Like that's one of those like this like it's so different that it works.
Yeah, and that whole era of
Familiar?
like the '80s Hobgoblin like mystery and everything was
Oh,
just
yeah. But of
gives it.
they had to screw it up because Marvel didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah.
Editorial changed it 3 times. They like it's like the writers didn't know what they were doing, so they contradicted each other. So then they had a huge mess on their hands because like in Spider-Man versus Wolverine, it came out before Amazing Spider-Man 289 where they revealed that Ned Leeds was Hobgoblin.
Yeah.
But in Wolverine Spider-Man, which came out earlier, they showed that Ned Leeds was killed
Yeah.
by like the terrorists that Spider-Man was trying to stop. So,
Yeah.
like Ned Leeds was revealed to be the Hobgoblin, but he was supposed to be dead.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh gosh, what do I do now?" And they've
Yeah.
already done like
Yeah.
3. They already faked out that Flash Thompson was Hobgoblin earlier.
Oh yeah.
They made
I
it.
mean, either way,
They had
it's still,
such great potential, but they somehow messed it up.
even if it is like a giant, like even if it's kind of a mess, I still like just love the whole kind of vibe that era gives off, like having the
It's my
black suit
favorite era.
Spidey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like overall,
and
like
Noah Friends is
different writers, different creative
Yeah.
teams. That's one of my favorite. Like, just like the 200s in general, or just like
Oh yeah,
yeah.
like 100 and 200 for Amazing Spider-Man.
No, like 200 to 300.
Oh, just the whole in between.
Yeah. I mean, 100 to 200 is kind of they're more one shots. Most
Mhm.
once they got to the 200s, they started doing more
A lot more cohesive.
overarching stories.
Hmm.
And I prefer that format.
Yeah. Even though like 100 to, or even from like the moment Ramita Senior takes on to like on from there until he's kind of done with his stuff is like a great era of stuff. And Ramita Senior's art in general just gives me a ton of like this is Spider-Man, you know.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I'm in the
And I
middle of Ramita's run right now. I
yeah.
I haven't read it in a while, but I'm trying to read through every issue of Amazing Spider-Man, like
Hmm.
completely through. I think I'm on issue 55. I
Yeah.
think something like that.
Yeah.
In the middle of his run, and it's
And
great.
yeah,
He sure did use Doctor Octopus a lot.
I know. And he ended up killing Captain Stacy, which I love that comic too. Number issue 90.
Yeah, I yeah, that one's definitely one of the landmark deaths in Spider-Man
Yeah.
history. But for some reason, it's always overlooked.
I know. The one thing though that I feel like does the most justice to it you could possibly do is Death and Destiny.
That miniseries is absolutely.
Story. It reminds me of Blue in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need more Spider-Man like one-shot stories, like Blue and Death and Destiny.
Yeah, and
Like
Spider-Man
stories.
really got the Stacy family
Yeah.
broken up, killed.
Hmm. But like stories set in like older eras, like Symbiote Spider-Man, Peter David.
Oh
This year.
yes, Symbiote Spider-Man's amazing. I actually read issue 3 and 4 of the current one that's going on right now. It's Alien Reality.
Oh, Alien Reality.
Have you read that one?
Yeah, really good.
Are you caught up on it?
I don't think so. I might have to
What
read.
issue did you read so far?
I got to the one where it was like Ben Parker, like in that house, and I also read the one where he like goes to save Gwen on the bridge, and then he unmasks Green Goblin, and it's like MJ.
Okay, so you've read up to number 3.
Yeah.
Number 4 is what's current right now, and I read that yesterday, and the cliffhanger was just absolutely terrible. I'm like, dang it.
Really?
Why did I choose to read this when I know that there's one issue left?
Yeah.
Of course, the cliffhanger is going to be the worst then,
Mm-hmm.
but what am I going to do?
And I would say, like Symbiote Spider, like Life Story got a lot of praise last year,
I
but
haven't read that. I read.
it's not really worth it.
I still
I would
haven't
say.
read it all.
The biggest thing about that is it's too short, only 6 issues, and you're
It is-
trying to
Yeah, it
combine
is
all these stories.
really,
you know?
really condensed. You could tell
Yeah.
that Zdarsky had to cut a lot.
Did you read the second one, like the 70s?
Yeah, I've read up till issue 4, I think.
Yeah, I think the 70s might be my least favorite. It was the one
All
where
runs together for me, so I'm not exactly sure what happened.
yeah, it was the
It
one
was the
where
most distinct to me.
Gwen, like, it was the whole. They did the Clone Saga and they mixed Gwen's death with it. So like, they blew
Oh
up
yeah.
a version of Gwen, and they thought it was a clone, but it was actually the real one, or something like that.
Yeah, that.
It was really like weird.
Yeah,
Like, and it sucks because I read the first issue and I was like, I love this. Like, I really liked the first issue.
yeah. First issue was really
The
good.
second issue, I'm like, what are they doing?
It's just because it was so like Jurassic of a time jump every time.
Yeah.
Then like so much happened off screen or off page.
Yeah.
You're just like, what is going on right now? And then
I think it would have
figure out
majorly
what's going on,
benefited.
then it time jumps again.
Yeah. But like, if it had 12 issues, I feel like it'd be a million times better instead of 6.
I don't know why Marvel hasn't. Marvel likes their shorter miniseries now.
Yeah.
It's very rare to find a miniseries nowadays that's 12 issues like they used to.
Mm-hmm.
Like They used to do those all the time, like Secret Wars.
Yeah, they did. They did a lot of 12, 13 issue series.
Yeah.
Like most of their events were that long, but then you got, I think, Civil War was only 7 issues.
Yeah. Oh
6
man, we could talk. I could probably talk an hour about why I don't like Civil War.
Yeah.
But the
Civil War.
movie is amazing. But
Yeah, I love the movie.
oh gosh,
I think the movie
the movie
does.
it's kind of like the Red Hood, the Under the Red Hood movie,
Yeah.
where the movie did such a great job adapting it and just like making it an actual confident story that everyone
Yeah.
is back and thinking the comic is great, but it's like no,
Yeah, the comic.
don't go
The
to the
comic.
comic, please.
I have the comic. Like I remember a few years ago, I went down to LA, and then we were in this comic shop. I'm like, it's Under the Red Hood because I saw the movie and I love. So I'm like all excited to pick up the comic, and then I get home, I'm nowhere near as good as the movie.
Oh no, it's night and day. Like
Yeah,
they had like that movie is amazing. Under the Red Hood is one of
I
the
love the movie.
animated comic book movies ever made. Like
Marvel needs to do what DC's doing or was doing.
I saw a tweet that the DC animated like movies are ending.
They're ending like the current universe, so
Like
they
the
have
continuity.
yeah, because
Oh,
they
okay.
had.
I thought they were like
the-
axing them entirely. I was gonna be upset. Okay.
Yeah, no, and I think it's for the better because their current universe is kind of a mess. It's like it's like New 52, but in animation form. So it's like they retconned and changed a bunch of characters, but
Mhm. We should talk
uh,
about all the DC animated movies.
at some point,
That would be really fun.
I know.
I
But
watched
like,
them all like 2 years ago. I went through all of them up until that point, and they were really good.
yeah,
Of course, there were some misses, but for the most part, like, oh man,
and I think they need to focus on their other characters some more because there's a lot of Batman.
they like to fall back on Batman.
That's like their guaranteed moneymaker is Batman.
Yeah,
Like Marvel's guaranteed moneymaker is Spider-Man.
they're like,
Well-
oh, Justice League Dark didn't make that much. Okay, we need a Batman to
Yeah, let's go back to
get our
Batman.
losses back.
Marvel. I mean, Spider-Man used to be Marvel's. They used to make him the cash, but now they've used to boost up their other characters.
Oh yeah, the MCU's done wonders for Marvel.
Well, have you noticed that ever since Disney got Spider-Man, it's always like their version of Spider-Man, no matter what version it is, has always like looked up to the other hero. He's always like tried to aspire to be them.
Yeah, they took
Like-
one aspect of Ultimate Spider-Man and just like amplified it
Yeah.
everything.
Like if you go, people might call me crazy. It's kind of a conspiracy theory, but like you go back to Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and Spider-Man's like looking up to Cap, asking to be his like sidekick and everything. You go to Ultimate Spider-Man. It's all about Peter like trying to push himself to be like Avenger rank. He wants to be like the Avengers and stuff. You get to the new cartoon, like the 2017 show, and again he's like looking up to other heroes and stuff like that. And then you got the MCU, obviously. So like, a part of me wants to say that they knew how much popularity Spider-Man has, and they wanted to take that and then make him look up to these other characters, so they can basically like make all their characters kind of on the same rank as him. You know, making as much money. And
Makes sense.
weird
mean-
how all of the adaptations Disney did have him idolizing their other characters.
Earth's Mightiest Heroes was its own thing before Disney, though.
It
So
was.
yeah, it's not Avengers Assemble was like they act.
The Disney reboot.
Yeah. Avengers Assemble was their Avengers cartoon once they started. After they ended Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
Which sucked because that was a really good show.
Marvel had the best lineup for animation right before
Oh yeah,
Disney bought it, because like there was Wolverine and the X-Men, there was Spectacular Spider-Man and
Mhm.
Earth's Heroes. And in my opinion, I might be biased just because I grew up with them, but I go back and watch them every now and then, and they hold up incredibly well. Like,
Well, they do. Yeah.
yeah, I think those are my favorite of. That's my favorite Spider-Man show. That's my favorite X-Men show. That's my favorite Avengers show.
I think that's my favorite Avengers adaptation period. Like,
Oh yeah,
it really
absolutely.
felt like they took the Avengers from the comics and literally put them onto screen.
Zemo was such a great villain in that show.
Oh yeah, and also Kang. Kang was so well done in that
Kang
show.
and yeah, Kang and Zemo, like it made me want
Ultron.
the movie. Like
Mhm.
I want
Every
Kang
villain
was
in
like.
the show was really good.
Wouldn't it be great if Kang was like the next big bad of like the next phase?
That's what I want.
Wouldn't that be great?
I think Kang can work really well as like an overarching.
Oh
Like
yeah.
a lot of people want Galactus, but I'm like, I don't see Galactus being like a master planner guy for a few phases. You know,
Yeah.
I see him for a big event, but not like a drawn out
He's
plan.
not cerebral in the way he, eats planets. He's just like, I'll just go eat this planet real quick. I'm kind of
Yeah.
hungry. It's just like when you drive by Chick-fil-A and you're like, oh, there's lunch. Let's go eat.
Yeah, that's basically Galactus. Like they can throw him into like an Avengers movie. That would be cool. But like in terms of overarching villains, they got to go with Kang. And if not Kang, maybe they can go like I don't know, Dark Avengers or something like that.
See, I don't really like Dark Avengers.
It's kind of a mixed bag for me.
Yeah.
It's weird.
What I do love though is I read like a little run of it was like Bagley, and I think it was Bendis and Bagley. It was like their first. I just had a random trade of Avengers that I got at a Comic Con for like dirt cheap. So I was like, I guess I'll read it, and I thought it was really good. It was basically like Thanos arc for 8 issues, and it was really good. I don't know
I
what
haven't
that
read
would
a
be.
lot of Avengers. Like I've read a lot of
It was
single
yeah,
issues.
it's pretty modern. I think it was like 2012 maybe, but I'm only guessing. I don't know when it was.
Like I read New Avengers by Bendis. I read some. Like I
I
read
don't think
some.
it was New Avengers. It was just Avengers, if I'm not mistaken. But it's in the other room. I could go look, but
Remember what the lineup was?
it was Black Widow, Hawkeye, Cap, Hulk. I think Iron Man maybe. It was like basically the movie
Yeah,
lineup.
movie lineup. I think the
what was
movies
there?
were definitely inspired by like the Ultimates and Bendis's work,
Yeah,
the first Avenger.
it was kind of like they took the movie lineup and just put it in the comics. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was around when the first Avengers came out, if I had to guess. But I
Yeah.
really liked it.
I'll have to read some more like Avengers arcs because I've read a lot of single issues, but
Yeah,
I haven't really stuck by for full run.
yeah, me neither. I've read a bunch that were like around when Vision became the leader of the Avengers and he created the West Coast Avengers.
Uh,
I've read like those
Yeah.
issues like in that little section.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I mean, I'll probably ask my friend. He has a username Rebirth JLA, but he's really like immersed in Marvel and Avengers and stuff. So just go to him and ask him.
Yeah. I need
He's got to read more
my
characters in
Marvel
general.
Unlimited subscription so I can get into other things because really
Yeah.
I only own Spider-Man. Like if I wanted to read like actual arcs, I'd need to go to the app because the only like series that I have like arcs of is like Star Wars and Spider-Man and Daredevil.
Yeah, like right now I'm trying to burn through Moon Knight, Daredevil, Hank Pym, more Spider-Man, and then I'm trying to go through Batman. But they've all been super interesting.
Cool. I was reading through Marvel 1000 today, and I can't remember what the character's called. I'll send it to you, but I want to say it's like Ranger Knight or something. But it was just a character I've never heard of, and it was really interesting. I'm gonna try to track down all the issues I can about it because the concept of it is so cool to me.
There are a lot of like obscure Marvel characters.
Basically, it's like there's an immortal like I don't know. She's it's like an immortal evil woman of some sort who has immense power, and so this vigilante, was trying to stop her, and he proved to be, equal to her in her eyes.
Yeah.
So then she cursed him to be immortal too. So
Hmm.
like
Interesting.
they have these constant back and forths. Like apparently the world wars were just backdrops to their conflicts. So it's like just them back and forth for all of eternity, and it's like everything in the world is like it eventually goes away, but there's always two constants, and it's each other.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a really cool idea, and I really want
You wrote it?
all of that stuff now. I'll I hate that I can't remember his name. I'll send it to you. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, we went all over the place today.
Yeah, we did.
What this was, but
I don't even really know what the topic of this would be. Talking about Marvel, I guess.
for the first half we talked Spider-Verse, but
Oh, yeah.
and then we started going into like Spider-Man in general, and then just Marvel in general.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe next time we can be more concise
Yeah.
with what we're doing.
Just have one topic the whole way.
Yeah. So we will definitely be doing this more often now that we're all in, with this whole quarantine, self-quarantine thing going on. So, I mean, I really just have like online classes for college, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So I definitely have more time to do this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And,
But we can probably do a bunch of episodes over the quarantine. So
yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I guess we'll see y'all later. Thanks for.
listening.
All right.